So welcome everyone to our CreateAWorld episode, wrapping up our 7-week series. We are thrilled to have you overhearing our conversation that we're going to have with each other, eavesdropping, I guess you would say, but really we invite you to be energetically part of the conversation. So why create a world? Why now? We're at a pivotal point in human evolution. What has been operating systems for hundreds of years, thousands of years in the human system is falling away. Systems that have held things up, arguably held us in fixed positions that aren't necessarily the best for human flourishing, they're disintegrating, they're falling apart around us. But that's actually good news, because it means it's creating the space for what's on the rise. And it's creating opportunities for us to architect new realities that serve the fullness of what it is to be a human being. But those new realities will have some very different patterns in them than the patterns that we are used to. And so we were talking just a few minutes before we got on the call with you all about a wave. And so when you look at a surfer on a surfboard riding a wave, it looks like they're standing still. But in fact, they're making a million different little ships to keep balanced and connected with the wave. And so part of why CreateAWorld is here is to help you learn to ride that surfboard and to build your strength and your stamina and capacity to make all the little adjustments that you need to make to stay standing on that board as you ride the wave. So we are thrilled to have you here as part of that conversation, where each can be sharing some things that we have learned in this last series and what is up for us as human beings, because we'd like to reinforce that what CreateAWorld is really all about is walking together as human beings. So there may be some things that you learn along the way, but we're not framing this as a purely teaching and learning experience. We're framing it as conversation and being together, because that restoring that way of being human with each other is a key element of what's on the rise. So Tantra, over to you.
So what we'll do today is I'll share, and then I'll call, we used to call it the talking stick. I think we'll call it the talking surfboard now. And the surfboard is our life. So, it's, so for me, two things have become stunningly obvious. I think that's the only way I know how to say it. I have been a working practitioner for 58 years this next year, 2023. That's stunning to even think about it. And I got COVID in June of 2020 and tanked. And I'm just now, I still have episodic phenomenon, but I'm pretty much discovering my mind again. The three areas that COVID hits the strongest, which everybody seems to stay pretty oblivious of, is it affects the muscle ability for the blood vessels and the muscles to breathe, to keep oxygen. It affects the heart and the lungs, obviously, and because I don't know if you know, lungs are muscles, but lungs are muscles, and it affects your brain. So one of the things that I have become aware of is I become aware of how to ask for help, and to really stay true, to not be ashamed. Because one of my things is Jesus, this much work and this much personal experience and this much success, you shouldn't have to ask for help. So recently I had to ask for help because I couldn't exercise. I just couldn't make myself exercise. And, one person said you might have a cortisol drop. I mean, there are all these explanations, but none of the explanations fit. And I found somebody who had a very different explanation and worked in a medium that I was not only unfamiliar with, I don't track it in any way, but I did a session with this person. And then yesterday, I didn't realize, I had wondered, also post-COVID and these times both come with fear. And I had been very frightened in a very normal human way, like when I first got up in the morning. And by the time I got in my day, it was fine. But I thought, what is this? And what happened yesterday was two things. One was part of my mind came back, the part of my mind that knows what I'm skilled at and what I'm good at. And because I'm perpetually skilled in that area, in other words, it's my everyday skill. It'd be like someone who was an athlete running and then suddenly couldn't figure out why they couldn't run. And that's frightening. It's terrifying. And it was shocking to me to realize I'd always had this innate capacity to know I was safe. And I'd lost it. And yesterday I got it back as a part of me, not as a part of a method and not as part of something to do, but what I'd always had confidence in. So I got a confidence back. And then this project had been floating around in my head with no ability to ground it. The whole project came back. The whole ability, how to do it, how to organize it, how to pay attention to it. So these, I don't know what they're called, Janice or Liz, you may know, this ability to take information and pattern it. What is that called? Being able to make it into a project, like literally to follow the steps to make it into a project. Logical sequencing came back. And I was stunned. And then today I listened to a piece, a talk from Shirzad, and I burst out laughing because I'm in this thing I'm doing. And so you could pick an area, and I picked surprise me. And believe me, every day it surprises me. There's no doubt in my mind. And but today it was who you are who you are in service. And it entered me into a paradox because one of my activities of being in service was self-sacrifice, was not taking care of myself. And the only time I ever took care of myself was when it kept me from being at work or kept me from being able to be with my kids. And yet he said, what people who are in service know is it makes them more happy than when they're alone with themselves. And that's true about me. So now I'm in this paradox, like Janice was saying, of wow, my pattern was never, how do I bring the two together? How do I take care of my well-being and my own personal development, in my case, physically, and restoring my brain. And how do I stay in the joy of being in service? Because service takes time. Being in service of others actually takes up time. So this whole paradox of what do I use my time for in service of myself and in service of others and in service of life itself is now very clearly on my plate. So that's my personal discovery. And then one last thing about that is I have to remember I have to practice it. I can't just, we have this thing about doing all this stuff we do and we think we've learned it, but you've never learned it till you practice it. So it took me till today, get all my little sequence of things I do, my PQ reps, my creation exercises, my working out a kink in my back, and I got them in time. And as those were what were fun, they weren't something in order to get back on my feet, but they were actually my fun. my fun of being in service to myself and my service to myself. So, and it's a huge shift, because believe me, it doesn't feel like fun, because I need to be out there getting my to-do list done. So that's me. Who wants to follow me? Who's up for next? Raise your hand, or I call on Janice.
So, I have just had the realization that I am in the midst of a breakup. And what I mean is that I am breaking up with my profession of 30 years. And I've been struggling with the decision, even though all arrows point to it's time for me to do something new. I've been struggling with, I've been predominantly calling it guilt, very similar to what Tantra was saying about, I spent 30 years, and I still am, working in the public school system. And that, and the way that I have worked in that system has also required a tremendous amount of self-sacrifice. It's been very gratifying. When I look at the long game, any individual moment can be very challenging, but generally what teachers will tell you is that it's gratifying in the long run. But I just all of a sudden realized in our conversation today that I'm in the midst of a breakup, because I'm leaving a relationship, and a relationship that has been based on me giving more than I've gotten, I think, in the sum total of things. And while I am definitely somebody who is only truly happy when I'm of service, as my life has evolved, I've come to understand that there are many, 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 many ways to be of service. And there are ways to be of service that nourish me and re-energize me. And there are ways to be of service that can be draining and depleting if I let it go on for too long. And so I am reformulating my relationship to service, and asking, what does it look like to create a life of service where I am nurtured? And part of that for me is returning to my role as a performer. So I'm an actor and a director, but I am in the middle of the first performance, live on stage performance with other actors that I've done since before COVID. And that is reminding me of all the ways in which that activity refuels me. And I've also been blessed enough to work with a theater group here in Florida that has really helped me reframe my relationship between theater and service. And really, it's opened me up into the ways that theater truly can be service and can make a difference. And so I am weak-kneed at the thought of making this huge transition. I'm not going to go cold turkey. I'm going from a full-time position to a half-time position after the first of the year. And then probably by this time next year, I will be completely done working for the public school system. Whether or not I'll still be working with them in any capacity, that's still ahead of me. But I feel like reframing this as recognizing it as a breakup is going to let me be a lot more gentle with myself, and to take a different approach in how I address all of the emotion that comes up for me. So, and it's no coincidence that aha occurred to me in the brilliance that is the field created by all of these incredible women that are on this call. So thank you to all of you for holding the field for me to learn something really valuable. I'm complete.
I'll follow up with that, because one of the things I know that I learned from my mother primarily was to be of service, to be involved in community groups and give back. And so I've done that most of my life. And I do find it very gratifying, but I also realize that I have a habit of letting it take over my life, so that I end up not doing what I enjoy, but doing the have-tos of the group, which eventually, oftentimes I've done what Janice does. I broke up with the group because it was the only way to stop myself from the sacrifice. So I wasn't really enjoying the group as much as it was a drain on me. And I'm doing something very unique now, and it's been happening over the fall, is I am stopping the sense of doing for and sacrificing for a group I'm in, and staying with them, which is a unique thing for me, because most of the time it was like, see you folks, I've done it, I've given everything up, I go. And so this is very different. And what it's allowing me to do is to recognize how the sacrifice model didn't really work for me. And what's working for me is deliberately training others and giving others the information that I have and the skill that I have, and making sure that they're supported in carrying more responsibilities. And it's in small things here, like I used to run the potluck in the building I belong to walking dogs. I have several friends who actually were disabled during the year, and I would walk their dogs. And then I started to think that maybe, just maybe, they could walk their own dogs. So I only do it 3 days a week now. And I'll tell you, that is a joy. There's nothing, they're small dogs, so they aren't really hard, but watching dogs do that sniff and play and getting stuff is just kind of fun in the morning. So it's a nice start 3 days of the week. So about myself, that's a big deal, I think, for me. And I realized that every time that I have in the past just chucked it was because I had given up myself. And I am now learning a new balance, which is how to include others in the work of the organization and give myself time for something that really nurtures me or is fun. So I've gone back to creative writing, and I even read my stories to my granddaughter, so she likes them. She's my new gauge on actually what age the story goes towards. I discovered very recently that there's one that is just so over her head. She's like, yeah, I think we'll go play in the playground. So it's learning a new balance in my life. It's almost like what Janice talked about when you're on a board, on a surfboard. But almost when I think of that, it feels like I am the wave, that I'm moving that wave differently now than I've done in the past. And it's being responsible for a different balance in my life. And I think that's probably the biggest change right now, is saying that I think reminding myself that I can do it, that I can do the stuff I want to have happen, that it doesn't have to be a case of, oh, I forgot, or, oh, I'm a sacrifice, or whatever tools I've used in the past to navigate life. So it's a very interesting time. And it's really nice to be with these women, all of these here. I hope you all get to know them, is that they're a fantastic group of women. So who's next? Liz.
I'll get on my board here. Janice, oh my goodness, I really am with you in your breakup. I'm 3 years almost 4 years now out from retirement from the public school system after almost 40 years of service. And it took a long time to move through the breakup. And this week I had to sit with, should I move back into the system, because they're offering a lot of money for substitutes now, really good money. And so I really had to sit with it and see, is this where my path should lead? Because I'm always called to service with children. And I decided, no, I have to find a different way. And so I really love to tutor. And I was thinking about this as you were talking, well, both you and Electra and Janice, that I have a beautiful existence tutoring. I have 6 students right now, but I thought, well, why not try and do that online? So I've applied online, and I just feel so light knowing that that was an aligned choice for me to make. Because every time I would go into thinking about, okay, I have to get in the car and I have to go and I have to be in an unknown situation. And it's very, quote, I call it peoply out there with, with a lot of children, don't know what you're moving into. And I thought, that just does not give me life. And so I'm really excited to see what will come my way as a result of kind of branching out and hoping that I can tutor online now. So that was a huge deal this week to kind of be with that. But then I was also thinking, as you were talking, Janice, I was driving home down this road that I love to drive. There's a lot of trees on either side. It's wooded, and it was almost 6 o'clock last night, and I had done some shopping for one of my children, and I thought, wow, I'm not stressed. And it brought up a recall of having stayed in my classroom working till almost 6 o'clock at night. And I thought, wow, it was this recall, and I thought, wow, I feel so fortunate now to be able to be coming home from tutoring and be enlivened instead of being stressed knowing that I have to go back the next day and be in an environment that's stressful. And so that also takes me into being able to sit with these children. I sat yesterday with a 6th grader, and oh my gosh, I just wanted to, well, I told him, I said, if I was your mom, I would be just crying all over you right now. He was talking about wanting to develop this character. He's 7th grade. I want to develop my character. I want to become a Chinese monk. That's one of the things I want to do. And I want to go into Aikido to learn, to have self-control. And he has pretty significant ADHD. And he said, I really do. I know I can control myself. And if I take any pills, that's going to take away who I am. And I'm just sitting there just, oh my gosh, I get to be a witness to this amazing young man. And then he also said, man, I want to go into the Air Force because I know it'll help me to be a good person. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So how amazing is that, to be able to sit with these amazing young people who are going to be our support as we age. It's just so much fun, and my whole week has been surfing that kind of a wave. just being with others, and witnessing who they are in the matter, and feeling a lightness and just this happiness that I don't think I've ever felt before. So for me now, being of service is part of my self-care. There's such one of my new words for next year, reciprocity. I love that word. There's such a reciprocity now in being of service to others, because it serves my spirit, my soul as well. So I'm complete. Who's next?
I'm next. I knew that I would know when it was time. So my one experience on a surfboard, what this lovely woman said to me was, relax. And I'm thinking about this young man that you're interacting with, Liz, and he's talking about Aikido and wanting to have more focus. And I'm very aware, especially this year, that I have gained a new appreciation and a new way of being in myself that is my strength, stamina, capacity for being relaxed and moving with, instead of that notion of being in control and being able to manage and mitigate through the circumstances of life. That I feel my body beginning to restore physically, and my practices to regain the physical strength that has wavered the last few years. So now I can move into physical practices that really go into that, but I'm in a relaxed place about being with myself physically. And the move this year for me, now living in Albuquerque, has been a testament for me to my mind, relaxing, feeling more at home in myself. I have a place in the world, and it has to do with where I am in me, that I feel connected to myself more deeply, and the land helps me get that connection to myself. And so that's part of what I feel nourished by being here, and having that sense of power of choice. That's been eye-opening for me, that in service to others comes for me in the power of choice. Where do I step in and where do I step out? And now it's, how do I step in? And that's the exploration going forward. How do I step in to what is of service, not only to me, but as well in the world? And I feel my physical being as well as my mental capacity resting back right now. And it's almost like I'm on that surfboard and I see all that's in front of me and I feel all that's behind me, just saying, okay, take a look, take a long look, take as much time as you need. You got to do that surfboard 1,000 times, maybe 5,000 times before you actually really feel that connection in the wave of it, where you go, that I caught that wave and I rode it all the way through. And I'm on the surfboard of what's the next choice. And I'm just riding the wave and seeing what the through line, where it takes me. And so I do feel really relaxed in it, instead of trying to make something happen, which has been a past behavior. Let's get in there and make something happen. It's more like, let me just be in myself and rest back a little more and feel the power and know what I resonate with and step into it when I know I'm called and I'm right on. I'm cool. I'm good with this. So that's oof. I'm complete. Who's next?
I'm going to follow after that. There is so much that everybody's saying that really I just resonate with. I was like, oh yeah, me too. But I'm going to speak it from a different place, because yesterday I literally used the example to myself of, man, I feel like I just, like I'm at the beach and I just got hit by the wave and I'm tumbled all through and I got sand in my mouth and I can't quite stand up. So it's really interesting. I'm coming on here and I, when I joined in, everybody was already using the imagery of the surfboard, which I really don't have a lot of connection to. I never did try to learn to surf or anything like that. But I think I want to, just because we're, CreateAWorld is not about teaching anything like we've got it handled. It's about sharing ourselves. I just want to say that aside from fragility, yesterday I couldn't make anything go right. And everything that went wrong, which wasn't that much really, I felt so fragile and incapable, and I couldn't get a grip all day. I just could not get a grip, not just functionally like getting things done, but I couldn't get a grip like to stop feeling terrified all day. And in different ways about different things. So, and then just a little thing would happen that was, you could call going wrong, that ordinarily would be, okay, let's just go do this and handle it. And I couldn't find my capacity. But I listened to everybody here, and I'm right in those same interfaces of, I just want to be of service, and I have so many ideas and I think awareness to share and whatever, but all the models of conducting that is breaking down. It is not tenable. Like pretty much what everybody's saying is, the people that have that kind of passion and everything to offer have been expected to go until they fall apart, till they drop. And to say, I need this or this, has in the past been a kind of a death sentence. Oh, well, you're no longer committed, or you're no longer able, and let's move on. And that's so not true. And just listening, like through my own experience of yesterday and today, and I'm studying to pass the licensing exam again. I'm studying again to pass the licensing exam, and been thinking about what it means to set up my private practice and so forth, and just was in the exact same questions that are being presented here. How do I do this so I serve enough people without shredding or disintegrating? And most of the models of therapy work, there's a lot of talk of, oh, self-care is so important, and, take care of yourself and do this, this, and this to avoid vicarious trauma. But the whole system is set up to produce vicarious trauma. So I've been looking at that. How do I do that just for myself to start with? And then if that's what's in the cards, is to build to include other practitioners, and I've spent so much of my training developing as a clinician to also discern what to let go of in the field of psychology, what to uproot, what to shift and change. And now there's beautiful, strong things like they've referred to Newfield and the PQ work. Oh, and the other one is, I've always wanted to put us all out of business. What would it be to live from wholeness so that, you don't need therapists? Well, that's an erroneous statement right there, because everybody's always needed somebody. There's always been shamans or a medicine woman or a something. That's a viable part of life, but the model is different. And so here's all these beautiful, strong things rising like Newfield and PQ. And I'm thinking, what the heck did I do all this work for? I just put myself out of business. I'm trying to set up a practice for something I want to undo. What the heck? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it's not done yet. And so there's just the questions are so much bigger than what there seems to be conscious discernment for. So right now I can list things I can just list them no more sacrifice. All right, what does that mean if you design life? No idea yet, or only a little bit of idea. Okay, well, I'm passionate to serve. Well, what if nobody wants to be served? Okay, who cares? I want to do it. So what does that mean? I don't know. So all these things I'm having to have hang in the air. And then I don't want to serve anybody. I want to go play in my garden. But then I do, because then I want to give all the food away so people are well fed. Okay, if that's not a study in contradiction, what is? So it's just a lot of, that's been my experience in the last several days. That is beautiful as it is, this process of generating my new world and a collective new world, even if it's only with, how many of us are there here? 7. Even if it's only with 7. There's more questions about what is it to design life from there than answers. And I'm not comfortable there, except when I am, but a lot of times I'm not. I want to already know the answer, have it done, and get about what I want to do. And right now, the real work seems to be in letting the energy of design rise and work us. So I'm not very comfortable there. And I'm not comfortable feeling, it's not that I'm not comfortable not knowing what to do. Well, no, I'm about to say a sentence that's not true. There are times I have capacity with that level of discomfort being in the generative process. But there's times that I don't. Now's one of them. And to let something rise while I'm sitting here thinking, life, the clock is ticking. I'm 63 now. How many more years? You're talking a lifetime of work that's just been presented to us, an entire lifetime. And I'm on this end of it. I'm not 20 anymore. So I have these conversations with life and the thinking patterns that what is it to just, I really envy you, Victoria, with which it sounds to me like you're saying that you've tapped a capacity to be with what's rising. And I'm such a push the river, battering ram kind of personality that it's very strange to say there's a lot of value in that, just not right now. So for me, it's been, and then with the physical capacity, like I'm relearning a lot of that too, and letting things rise. So it's been a lot more for me, like feeling like, I don't know the surfing term, when you fall off the board and you get face planted into the sand, but there's been more kind of feeling experience of that for me lately. And knowing to what everybody's saying, like the sturdiness of what everybody on this call is saying, what's the word I want? Like when you're sculpting and there it is. And I read once that Michelangelo would look at a piece of marble and he could see what it wanted to be. And that's what he would sculpt. It feels a lot like that to me now, of what I'm hearing people say. They've walked up on their marble and they can see it and feel it. And there's so many commonalities in what everybody's saying here that's really rich. And I'm sitting here thinking, all of that should make me feel calmer. It's all there. It's coming. And it's not right now. And allow that too. Not much choice. So, and yet it's okay. It's okay. So I'm complete. Thank you all.
So I appreciate all of the sharing and the threading, and I very much could go like ping pong off like what everybody has said. And for me, the surfboard, riding the wave analogy, symbolism, it like I totally saw myself as a tsunami, and I've seen myself as like a still pond and like a raging river. So I've seen myself in all powerful potentialities of what riding a wave could be. And there is that part inside of me that, I can't think of the word, but it's that, ooh, do I really want to be a tsunami and get sucked under, or do that face plant like Deb said? And I'm like, well, maybe not. So I step back, or I retreat from and don't engage as deeply in some aspects. And then I'm like, well, no, let's just be the wave. Like, I'm a balance fanatic. So being the wave, and how can I find those practices that are go-to, that are so innate to bring forward the strength, stamina, capacity that I know it's within me and it's within all of us. It can be developed and like just nurtured and resourced, and be in that. So I am one with the wave, or I am the wave, however you want to coin that. And for me, it's the languaging. As each of you spoke about being in service and what have you, I'm like, what does service really mean for me? I know what it means historically or societally, what have you. And I'm like, no, what does that really mean for me? And maybe it is just that smile to someone in the grocery store, or, you know, a thank you for holding the door type of thing, an acknowledgement of being with another. And to me, when I operate from that place of being, that's all the service I need, because I'm coming in engagement, in connection, life to life, really honoring where anyone is in their moment, not knowing where they are in their moment, and really being able to allow myself to be grounded in my competencies as I move forward in this world with confidence. And as I say that, I hear it like, oh, well, that's selfish. You know, I hear all these life depleting definitions of what I've said. So having that yin yang in me, that Tai Chi in me, it's in all of us. And how do we move forward in the totality of our being and just hold it as sacred and create space for anything, you know, the all of what is possible, and the all of what is possible with life. And it's interesting, as we are sharing, there's a part of me that longs to be in Costa Rica instead of Ohio, where I'm at. And I just had an aha, like like I am my home. We are our home. So if we carry that with us, we can go anywhere and make that place just as special as we are. And that's what I want for the world. That's what I want for all of us in conversation, is to be connected to the power of standing with our organizing design, with creation, and moving collectively towards peace, love, empathy, you know, all the yumminess of life, and not negating the other side of that, but finding the balance and the capacity to have more balance, more balance, more balance. And maybe I can invite each one of you, all of you, on my surfboard and we can ride the wave together. So I'm excited to see what's possible in collaboration, and being with this wonderful CreateAWorld group. It creates more of that space within myself to like, maybe it is possible, and ride the wave into that. So thank you for creating this space. I love being with all of you. I'm complete.
I think this has been really nice, because to show the different stages that we're in when we do the change process, or we decide we want to be more of our original design. And it was really nice of Deborah to speak to what she's in, because wow, I've been there. I've been pissed a good part of the fall or, angry, sad, all sorts of different things. And it is a wave. And if we can be with ourselves, just like what Lori said, in where we're at in the process, with the holding that we are moving towards our original design, even though you don't know that. I think it makes it like I can live through this. This is not the whole of what I am. I'm not stuck being in this, like Janice was saying, the breakup or the remolding. I feel like I have been giving up ways of being that, worked, but they're not what I have for the future. So it's that whole process we're in. This has been beautiful. Thank you.
I just want to add one thing, it was actually showing up for me because my daughter is 40 and just turned 40 this year. And my oldest son is 57. And Aaron and Liana are 18 months apart. So he's, sometimes 39, sometimes 38 in their distance of 18 months. But one of the things is I represent a specific group of human beings, people in their 70s and post 75. And one of the saddest things for me right now is how we're taught to give up. We're taught we're useless. We don't have value. And even in my own kids, they don't realize they're historically trained to shift into a relationship with me in a manner that I don't know myself as. And I am definitely a push the river woman. I have been in a very unusual business and gained an amazing reputation over 57 years of only pushing the river, because none of what we're talking about today was even a possibility when I was 20 years old. And I'm one of the ones that wouldn't give up, wouldn't shut up. And so there's a phenomenon about being a visionary, because I am clearly a visionary. And I let every person speak for themselves on this. But the one thing I know about being a visionary is you deal more with what isn't working than what is. You deal more with what's not present than what is present. And it is really hard not to take the sucker punches and to not take the hits and to not think people know what you're talking about. I have a phrase. It's called building matrices within which no futures can rise. I have a developed community since 2014. And this year, actually more like this month, what I'm watching in the feed is people comprehending what building matrices within which no futures can rise even means. And one of the phenomenon of what I'm offering today is letting ourselves be used by conversation, not figuring out what we think conversation means. Because we have these natural systems, I don't know who I am anymore, to be quite honest. But I do know that I don't want to ride the wave sometimes, and the wave doesn't care. That whatever I am to creation is far more interested in my emotions and my feelings and my sensations and my mind. Far more interested in that than my opinion of what I want or don't want. And I do think people are challenged right now. I think my age group is particularly challenged. I think even the middle 60-year-olds are challenged, because we do live longer now. We aren't being put out to pasture. And And there is some way to not give up on that. There is some way to not let ourselves fall victim to the conversation of our lives are done. Even in no listening, which is such a shock, because I started my 20s with no listening. And I beat the bushes till my 30s when I started really to be listened to for a long time. And now to be back in the no listening because of the age is unbelievable. This is really, I have to be careful how I speak. We only have 5 minutes and I want to make sure that people can speak. But years ago, one of my clients was 89 years old. And she did that thing that starts with an S and ends with an X. She did phone work. And not one of those young whippersnappers realized they were talking to an 89-year-old woman. So that's my model. So I really like this opportunity to maybe even behind the scenes, maybe even never being visible. Because maybe I can take age out of the equation and get my job done. We have about 5 minutes, so anyone else that wants to share.
I just want to place a new book that I'm just starting, and I want to take this conversation into my listening of this new book, and it's called How Women Rise.
And I think it's helpful to recognize that you don't see a lot of straight lines in nature, right? The idea of a linear path is very much human-centric rather than a nature-centric. And so, we have days where we feel like we're with the flow, and days where we feel like we're being pushed and we're moving the river, or the river's moving us, and all of that is part of the process. And so rather than going into assessment about, well, this means I'm doing something wrong if I'm feeling this way, to be able to be with just, the fact that whatever emotion we're experiencing is giving us information, and we can gather that information and we can use it in the choices that we make moving forward. I definitely ditto what Electra said about, the beauty of presencing the complexity and the winding path of change.
I like to call it composting life. Yeah. Sitting in it and letting it seep, and how nourishing even that compost is.
Deb definitely gets the composting one.
I love compost, and yet I'm very run by the linear, let's just go from A to Z. And it makes no sense. And I didn't do that to myself. I'm a compost gal.
Amazing.
I'm the both end of that. I have linear aspects and I like to wander along the path.
We'll just put glitter in the compost.
My mantra for life right now is just never leave dog bones on the back porch, because bobcats love them. And you get visited when you don't want to be visited. That is the sum total of my entire intelligence. At this moment, it is the one clarity I have about what to do and not to do. That is it. I got nothing else going on. Everything else is simply sometimes terrifying, sometimes incredibly humorous. They have the cutest rear end you ever saw. I just want to say that, because when the 80-pound dog, that's my daughter's dog, hit the glass at 80 miles an hour, screaming to get at the bobcat turned around. He's got the cutest butt. With his little tail, it's the cutest thing I ever saw. It is now fixed in my mind. I will only ever see a bobcat from the rear end now, no matter which way the bobcat is facing. So I think with that level of intelligence, we can close off the conversation today. And we're just crazy women. But actually, we are women. And actually, what Victoria said is real. We are a collaboration of women, just to be clear about that. And it's not against men, but we're really, really clear that we got to have our place. And so do
Women
you.
rising.
Women rising. All right. Goodbye. Good luck. And we'll